Hi and welcome to True Crime, a channel dedicated to the dark underworld of criminal activity carried out by gangsters, mobsters, cartel leaders, and others. Let's get started. First murder, late teens and early 20s. In 1978, 3 weeks after graduation, Dahmer killed his first person. On June 18, Dahmer picked up Steven Mark Hicks, a hitchhiker who was almost 19 years old. Under the pretense of drinking, Dahmer persuaded the young man to come to his house. Hicks agreed to accompany Dahmer to his house in exchange for a couple of beers because Dahmer had the place to himself. Hicks had been hitchhiking to a rock festival at Chippewa Lake Park, Ohio. Dahmer asserted that he became sexually aroused to Hicks when he spotted him standing by the side of the road with his chest exposed. Hicks, however, recognized that any attempts would be futile when he started talking about girls. After several hours of mingling, drinking, and listening to music, Hicks wanted to leave, and I didn't want him to leave. Dahmer attacked Hicks with a dumbbell weighing 10 pounds. Later, he claimed that he struck Hicks twice from behind with a dumbbell while he was sitting in a chair. Dahmer strangled Hicks with the dumbbell's bar when he passed out. Then, after stripping all of his clothing, he masturbated above the body while raking his chest with his fists. The body was dragged to the basement by Dahmer. The following day in his basement, Dahmer dissected Hicks' body. In the end, he performed a small burial in his backyard for the bodies. A few weeks later, he discovered the remains and removed the flesh from the bones. Before flushing the concoction down the toilet, he used acid to dissolve the flesh. The bones were broken using a sledgehammer, and after that, they were scattered over the woods behind the family home. Dahmer enrolled in college that fall, but his alcoholism prevented him from finishing. Following that, his father persuaded him to enlist in the military, and from 1979 to 1981, he served in Germany as a combat doctor. Yet after being freed that spring, he went back to Ohio because he was unable to kick the habit. His drinking continued to cause problems, so his father sent him to live with his grandmother in West Allis, Wisconsin. He began frequenting gay bathhouses in 1985, where he would use medications to make men unconscious, so he could rape them as they slept. He was given probation, despite being held twice for indecent exposure in 1982 and 1986. He was not charged with the rapes. In his late 20s and early 30s, Stephen Suomi, his second victim, died in September 1987. Dahmer picked him up from a bar, drove him back to a motel, and the next morning Suomi's battered body was discovered there. Later, he insisted that he couldn't recall murdering Suomi, implying that he had carried it out suddenly while unconscious. But Suomi was on the bed beneath Dahmer when he awoke the following morning, his chest battered and black and blue. Dahmer's jaw corner was bloodied, and his fists and one forearm were badly bruised. Following his first denial that he remembered killing Suomi, Dahmer later admitted to officers that he could not believe what had happened to dispose of Suomi's body. Dahmer purchased a big suitcase and transported it to his grandmother's house. A week later, he separated the torso from the head, arms and legs, filleted the bones, and cut the meat into manageable pieces. The meat was then placed in plastic trash bags by Dahmer. He wrapped the bones in a cloth and with a sledgehammer broke them into splinters. The dismemberment took almost 2 hours for Dahmer to finish. He threw all of Suomi's remains, save for the cut head, in the garbage. Following Suomi, the killings persisted sporadically. There were 4 victims in 1990 and 2 in each of 1988 and 1989. He kept soliciting for prostitutes or luring unsuspecting guys from bars, then drugging, raping, and strangling them. Richard Guerrero, a 22-year-old bisexual man, and Dahmer met on March 24, 1988, outside the Phoenix Gay Bar. Dahmer once again enticed Guerrero to his grandmother's home, but this time the inducement was a meager $50 to stay the night with him. Dahmer had oral sex with Guerrero's corpse after drugging him with sleeping pills and strangling him with a leather thong. Within 24 hours of killing Guerrero, Dahmer dismembered his body, discarded the pieces, and kept the head for several months. At this point, however, Dahmer also began performing particularly cruel activities on their bodies, including continuing to use them for sex while photographing it, meticulously preserving the victim's skulls and genitalia for display, and even saving bits for ingestion. During this time, Dahmer was imprisoned for drugging and harassing a 13-year-old girl while he was employed at the Ambrosia Chocolate Factory. He was sentenced to a 5-year probationary term, 1 year of work release, and forced to register as a sex offender as a result. In May 1990, after completing the work program 2 months early, he moved into an apartment in Milwaukee. He continued to be free to commit 4 murders that year and 8 more in 1991 there despite attending his probation officer's regular appointments. Murders that followed. By the summer of 1991, Dahmer had begun to murder one person on average every week. The idea that he may turn his victims into zombies who would then act as young, servile sexual partners fascinated him. He used a number of techniques, such as drilling holes in their skulls and injecting their brains with hydrochloric acid or boiling water. The neighbors soon began to complain about the strange noises and obnoxious smells coming from Dahmer's apartment. In one instance, a lobotomized victim who was left unattended even made it outdoors and pleaded for help from several onlookers. But when Dahmer returned, he was able to convince the police that the strange young man was only his inebriated buddy. Due to the police's failure to complete a background check that would have revealed Dahmer's status as a serial sex offender, he almost lived for a little bit longer. On July 22, 1991, Dahmer enticed Tracy Edwards into his home with the promise of payment for her services. Dahmer then forced Edwards inside the bedroom using a butcher knife. During the struggle, Edwards was able to escape and make his way outdoors, where he hailed down a passing police car. When the police arrived at the house, Edwards told them that Dahmer's bedroom contained a knife. After finding pictures of severed limbs and dead victims in the bedroom, the officers were able to apprehend Dahmer. After searching the residence once more, they found more human remains in his refrigerator, including more severed heads. 3 more heads were strewn about the apartment, and countless pictures of the victims. In total, 7 skulls and a human heart were found in his apartment's freezer. He also constructed an altar in his closet, out of candles and human skulls. After being arrested, Dahmer confessed and began telling the authorities the grisly specifics of his murders. The trial for Dahmer, who was accused of 15 killings, began on January 30, 1992. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, Dahmer argued that his truly terrifying and uncontrollable desires were the source of his insanity. During a 2-week trial, he was declared to be crazy and guilty of 15 counts of murder. He was given 15 life sentences for a grand total of 957 years in jail. In May of the same year, he admitted to killing Steven Hicks and was given an additional life term. Dahmer completed his time at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin. When he was imprisoned, Dahmer expressed guilt for his actions and expressed want to end his life. Additionally, he claimed to have read the Bible, be a born-again Christian, and be ready for his final judgment. The initial attempt to slash open his neck only caused minor injuries, but he was attacked twice by other prisoners. But on November 28, 1994, as they were cleaning one of the showers, another prisoner attacked him. Dahmer was found to be alive but died en route to the hospital due to severe head injuries. Thank you for watching another amazing video from our true crime team. Like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned to our next real-life true crime video.